I think we should move on now to the question of trade missions, which was the other thing that we were gathering people together to talk about. And I just wanted to give Guy an opportunity, first of all, to say if a company came to you and said, we're thinking of going on a trade mission, we want to try and get into an export market, what would be your sort of first comment about that? What questions would you say they should be asking themselves?
And the market. In one of my first banking courses, the 4 Ps, product, place, price and promotion. So what's the kind of strategy behind all that? Will my product sell overseas? What's my quality like? What's the competition? Do I understand the market?
It's making sure that when you go out there that you've already got the people lined up that you're going to meet. And I think we're not good enough at actually doing that. I don't think we use the power of the knowledge bank enough. We've got to create it. I think Wales Worldwide will help in that process.
What are you putting in place now to make your website international? First of all, if you haven't got a website, why are you going abroad in the first place? Because that's your first step, isn't it? How are you going to make your website international? Because it's only about 25% of the web now is English, and it was about, when we started off, it was more like 100% of the web was English. Only 25% of the web is English now. So you've got to have a lot more capacity to sort of turn that website into an international website with at least an international page on it in a foreign language.
When you go into these markets, you don't know what to say, how to trade, you don't know who's good, who's bad. And having someone on the ground that does that as an associate, as it was in the days of IVW, and he knows all the people, it's priceless.
There is an opportunity as well to contact the embassies of the countries you aim to export to and make use of their information they have in their commercial departments. You should know the person you're going to meet, you should know the surname, you should be punctual, be ready with good documentation, a good website, as was said. It all really means, particularly in the case of Germany, you've got to be well ready for a decent export meeting.
And certainly for new exporters, it's a good way to get to a market, to understand. You will often get a day acclimatization, which would give companies the culture, the background, how they should behave, what they should wear, and that sort of thing. So it is a good way, and you're with a group generally of experienced exporters, so you can learn a lot by just talking to people on the trade mission. So trade missions are an excellent way of getting out. And the most important thing once you get out into the markets and you start doing business is in a lot of parts of the world, the key thing is building the relationship. And that's critical to having ongoing good business. And sometimes it can take a year or two to get that relationship to that point.
So you can get a lot out of networking with the other companies going. To be fair to the Welsh Government, I think it's difficult for them to actually do this, but one of the things that they should try and facilitate as much as they can is putting the companies in touch with each other before they go, so that you begin to warm those relationships up before you actually go. Some of the companies who've done too much preparation in advance and had too many appointments didn't leave themselves enough flexibility within the short period of time available to actually pick up opportunistically on leads that came off the back of leads. So clearly you want to sort of feel that you've got some appointments in the bag, so that whatever happens, that's the bottom line. You've got a couple of meetings or 3 meetings or something. But you also need to be fairly flexible and fairly nimble when you're actually out on these delegations, because what everybody, without exception, on the delegation was saying is that they actually picked up extra appointments while they were there, and they got more out of it. There were things that came up that they could not possibly have predicted.
I disagree slightly to the thread where this is going about, the assumption that you go on a trade mission, you're well prepared, you come back with an order. Because, for me, new market entrants, whether that's domestic, whether it's sectoral in the UK, whether it's overseas, is about 2 things. It's about market discovery and then execution against that. I think the danger with when we talk about tips for a trade mission is that people are focused more on the execution point, because people understand that I spend time doing this, I come back with an order. It's the market preparation, the market knowledge and the discovery piece, which for me is lacking in most Welsh businesses, even if they are reasonably successful at exporting. So we shouldn't lose sight of that.
So you're talking about, say for example, India, thinking about exporting into India. Where in India are you actually exporting to? Because there are a huge number of different markets.
Yes.
The same in the States, and that's what my thought process was going. I mean, each state is a different legal there's a different legal regime potentially. So you need to be very mindful of that. So if you're exporting into California, as you know, it would be very different to exporting into the Midwest or into New York, different animals completely. So you have to understand which market you're actually looking at and thinking about exporting into.
What we've actively been doing over the last 12 months in particular is trying to anticipate in certain trade missions and bringing in experts well in advance. So if I take this simple example, 22nd of March, we brought in UKTI representatives who physically flew in from Japan, Singapore, Malaysia and India. And picking up Paul's point, the guy from India said, you know, if you talk India, you might as well give up. You need to physically home it down to such a minute part of India. But having those people in and sharing that information, which we're currently updating all the top tips, was significant.
Is the importance of communicating within your own community. There's a lot of networking events that are run, and really speaking, it's invaluable just to speak to people that have been there and worked in those markets specifically before you.
Once you're in a market, it's absurd not to learn about that market. You may need to realign your products, or you may see opportunities because of your unique knowledge of that market. And I think we've got a saying that before you broadcast, first receive. Go in there, get the information. You may find or think you have the perfect product to begin with, but actually the perfect product may just be around the corner. And realigning that either to suit regulatory requirements or fashion requirements or other taste factors is a very important fact in generating extra business.
The key thing with abroad now is price. How are you pricing your product? Because if you're just going to price it in sterling, you're going to put up a lot of people. So you've got to have an understanding of what sort of exchange rate relationship you're going to have in the country that you're setting up in, and price it in local currency, and make sure, of course, that you're able to answer those queries in local language.
It's very easy just to do a price. You work out your margins, you look at your expectations, you work out a price, but then you have to put yourself in the position of the importer, who then has to establish his margins, his retail price, his currency fluctuation exposure. So what we did with that was to take our fundamental UK price, put it into a spreadsheet, put a column in for converting at whatever currency, whether it's dollars or euros, then also a column where you add the anticipated delivery cost, because we quote an FOB price. They can then put their figures in, and they can produce very, very quickly their selling prices and understand how it competes in their market. Decide whether you carry the currency risk or whether the customer does. So we always invoice in GB pounds, and the currency risk traditionally has been taken by our customers.
I agree that there's a risk there that you can eliminate by forward booking. You've also got the currency account option, but I'm accumulating dollars in my currency account. I've got to be able to then spend the dollars. So that's not going to suit everybody.
If you do go to Dubai or you do go to California and somebody gives you a massive order, what capacity have you got to fulfill that order? Because you've got a lot of people I was talking to, if they had got a big order, they had nothing to actually deliver it. Otherwise, of course, you're going to actually ruin your whole reputation as a potential strategic exporter if you fall down to that first opportunity.
I think this is another very important point, and that is make sure you have the capacity and capability and everything else post going on a trade mission. Because far too often I see people go on a mission, they have their business cards stacked up to the ceiling, and then what happens? The day job carries on, I must do that, and 3 months go down and the whole thing's fallen over. So if you are going to go, make sure you've got the capacity time to then follow up.
If a business has got a product and it's a good product and the quality is there, do some research. Don't just keep to the UK. There's a big world out there, isn't there?
I think this is what it's all about. Yes, there are some tripwires and there are some challenges, but when aren't there in business? But on the other hand, the opportunities, if you look at growth markets like India, you look at huge markets like the United States, you look at the European Union, the opportunities are vast, and the UK economy is not going to deliver the growth for Welsh businesses that we would like to see, so therefore we've got to look further afield.
I still believe that the more we can work together and cross-fertilise these things, the better, because we have had feedback from individual businesses to say, well, there's so many events going on, I don't know which one to go to, so I don't go to any. So we've got to try and be far more coordinated in that.